Right then guys, hello and welcome to the 6th lesson in the Complete Rock Guitar Beginners series, okay? Now today we're going to be talking about something really important and something that's really cool, and this is how to practice. Now most people don't talk about how to practice because they don't really know how to teach it, but it's a really important part of being a great guitar player. Okay, we're going to go through how to make sure that it's really fun so that you can't wait to pick up your guitar when you get home from school or work. I'm going to talk about how to make sure you get the most progress so you can learn the most songs and have the most fun on guitar. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so if I asked you what the most important part of guitar playing is, what would you say? You might say, oh well, it's chords, it's lead guitar, but really the most important part is having fun. That's what the guitar was made for, okay? String instruments have been around for thousands of years, and all they've done is help to make people have fun. That's the whole idea of it. Whenever you listen to music, whenever you play music, the idea is for it to be enjoyable. Now I see some people talking about guitar practice and saying, oh well, you need to be disciplined in your practice, you need to make sure that you're following a schedule and you need to do this and that, and oh it should be, it should be hard work, you should work hard at it. That's a load of nonsense. That's not the way to go about it at all. If you're not having fun on guitar, then there's no point in doing it. So put your fun as your #1 priority. Your enjoyment should be the main thing that you think about when you're playing guitar, okay? So when you're learning something new, there are 3 easy tips to make sure that you stay motivated and that you stay having fun. Because the more fun that you have, the more motivated you are, the more you practice and the better you get. So the more fun you have, the better a guitar player you are, so it's super important. So these 3 things are, #1, make sure that whatever it is, it's enjoyable and you like the sound of it. Don't go out and buy a beginner method book if the book starts with how to learn to play Ode to Joy. If that's your thing, great, buy the book. But if you're watching this rock guitar lesson video, then I'm assuming that it's not. So don't buy that book, forget about it. If you don't enjoy the sound of it, don't bother playing it, okay? Because you'll just get bored. If you want to go out and learn AC/DC songs, then go out and learn AC/DC songs. If that's what you like listening to, then learn that. I remember when I was first learning, my guitar teacher put me through the grade system, which can be a good way to learn, but a lot of the grade songs I just didn't like. I wasn't interested in them. I wasn't bothered with learning them. They're not the kind of thing that I would have ever put on as a CD and tried to listen to, Instead, I just wanted to learn rock songs. So learning the grade system I thought was really boring, and it took ages, and I wasn't getting good progress at all. And then, whenever I tried to learn, say, an AC/DC song, we'll take that example, a really good band, suddenly I'd be really excited and I'd be practicing loads and I'd get so much more progress even within just a couple of weeks. So it's super important that whatever you choose to practice, you make sure that you enjoy the sound of it. It sounds obvious, but so many people violate this basic rule of guitar practice. Now the second rule for keeping it really fun is making sure that it's achievable. So it's great to have really big goals. If you want to be in a big rock band and you want to write your own guitar songs and play some really fancy stuff, that's brilliant. But remember, that can be broken down into lots of little stages. So you can take songs now that you want to learn and techniques and all that kind of thing that are more at your level. So say you want to learn to play some really brilliant guitar solos, you want to shred and play all high up the neck and do all this fancy fast stuff. That's awesome. But you can start off by learning a really nice and easy guitar solo. So a couple of lessons ago we talked about lead guitar and you learnt your first guitar solo, so you're already on the way to that. So set a big goal, a big exciting goal that you can't wait to achieve, and then think, okay, well, if I want to do that, what's the first step? What's something that I could learn that's at my level? If you try and take on something really difficult immediately, then you're probably not going to get results quickly and you'll probably get bored. And boredom is the worst thing when it comes to guitar playing because boredom is the opposite of fun, okay? So make sure that whatever you choose, you set a big goal and then choose something that's achievable for you. Choose a song that you think, yeah, I reckon I could learn that, It's awesome to be ambitious, but once you've been ambitious and you've decided what you want to do on guitar, then make sure that you break that down so you can start learning some easier songs and get quicker results. Okay, so the third tip in learning to make guitar playing fun is to make sure that you're learning from a good source. So if you look up on the internet the guitar tab, we'll be talking about guitar tab in the next lesson, lesson 7, or you look up a guitar lesson on YouTube for a particular song, and it all looks a bit amateur, and the person who's teaching it is just a bit like this, and then you put this finger there and this finger, and it's all a bit boring, then forget about the lesson, because it's not going to be fun to learn. You need to learn from sources that are good, they're reliable, they're professional, and they're exciting. So that's what I aim to do with all these lessons. It should be interesting to watch, it should be fun to play, and it should be something that you can trust, because you don't want to learn a song or a technique from a source that isn't reliable. You should make sure that the person you're learning from can play in a style that you want to learn, because if they can't, then they're faking it, and that means you're not going to learn as well. And a key part of making it fun is to make sure you keep making progress, because we like making progress. That's what anybody who's really good at anything enjoys most. It's making progress, improving themselves. So make sure that whenever you say sit down to learn a new song, let's take the AC/DC song as another example, when you look at all these lessons and everything, pick the one that looks the most professional, the person who's got the most experience, and the person who can help you become the best guitar player, because by doing that you're going to get better progress, and that will lead to having more fun. Okay, so to recap, the 3 tips to make sure that guitar playing is fun are: number 1, choose things that you really like the sound of. Don't get forced by a teacher or a friend or anybody else to learn something that you think is boring and doesn't sound cool. If you like rock songs, then learn rock songs. Now, number 2 was to learn something that's at your ability level. So if you want, you can still set a big goal of, I want to write my own songs and play loads of cool solos, but then think, okay, well, what's something that I can learn now that won't take too long to make sure that I keep progressing and I can start on this big goal immediately. So learn things that are at your level. Don't try and bite off too much at once, because you'll get overwhelmed, and that's when you quit, and that's the last thing we want. And number 3 was to learn from credible sources. So learn from guitar instructors who are professional, who know what they're talking about, and who can demonstrate that they can do what you want to learn, because if they can't, then it's useless learning from them. So pick a source that you know is going to be reliable, and you know is going to be able to teach you what you want to learn in an effective way. Okay, so now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of how to practice. Now, the first tip that I'm going to give you in this section of the video is something that we've actually been doing throughout all of these lesson videos, and this is isolating the challenge. Now, all I mean by this is, if there's a certain section of a riff that you find difficult, then just focus on that little bit. So in the last lesson we played a riff that went like this. If you're playing that and then you keep getting stuck at one part, let's say when you got to playing these chords on these strings, you kept on missing the notes and you couldn't do it, and it just seemed really hard. Well, if that's the case, if you keep messing up at that same point, then don't play the whole riff over and over again like this. Oh, okay, I'll start again. Don't try and do that, because you're wasting your time. Instead, just focus on the bit that's most difficult. Find out what the main challenge is and isolate it. So we're isolating the challenge. And that way you can learn loads faster, because you can do more repetitions in the same time. Now, repetition of any particular motion on guitar, say repeating these chords over and over, makes things easier to play. It's how we learn. The more you repeat something, the better you get at it until you're really, really good. Okay? So by just repeating that bit, that means we can play twice as many repetitions of that particular thing than if we're repeating the whole riff from beginning to end every time we practice it. So by isolating the challenge, you'll get loads better results. So in this example, for instance, you could say, okay, well, I'm only going to repeat those chords then. So you could go... and just go between them over and over again, remembering to stay nice and slow and relaxed, and so on, and you keep doing that, and that way you're focusing all of your energy just on the one bit that's holding you back, so you're going to get much better progress. Now the next tip that I'm going to give you is something that's really important, and it's something that I didn't do for a long time and it really hindered me. So don't fall into the same trap that I did. And this tip is to make sure that you learn loads of songs. Learn as many cool songs as you can. If you like the sound of a song that you've heard on the radio or that you've got on your phone or on your iPod, then learn it. Just learn it. It'll be so much fun. And this keeps you motivated, it keeps you learning, and it keeps you progressing. Now in the description below I've got a link to a free article that I've done on my website where I've got 53, yes 53, easy rock songs that beginners just like you can start learning today. So I made that because when I was a beginner I found it really difficult to find songs that were cool and that sounded really good but were at my ability level. So again, I couldn't fulfill those 3 things that make guitar playing fun. So I wasn't having fun, and I even got to the stage at one point where I decided that I was almost going to quit because I was fed up and I couldn't find songs that I could play easily. So that's why I put together the list. So you can check out that link in the description. It's all free. You don't have to sign up for anything to get access to all the songs. It's all there. And there's a video for each song, and there's tab for it as well. We're going to talk about tablature in the next lesson, so that should be coming out tomorrow. So you can learn all these songs, because learning songs is the lifeblood of the instrument. It's the reason that we play guitar in the first place. So the more songs you learn, the better a guitar player you'll be and the more fun you'll have. So now the next tip that I'm going to talk about is learning to focus. So let's say you've looked through the big list of songs and you thought, oh, I want to learn all of these, oh, they all look brilliant, oh yeah, I'm going to learn this song by AC/DC and this one by Judas Priest and this one by The Killers or the Kaiser Chiefs, you know. And you take all these songs at once and you've got all of the tabs open in front of you for every song, and you learn, well, okay, a couple of notes of the AC/DC song, and then you go along and say, oh yeah, I'll try learning this one next. And you learn a couple of notes of that one. No, okay, I'll move on to this one next. And you keep going and keep going and keep going. And you're never actually mastering any of the songs. You could sit there for hours like that, and by the end of the day, you still wouldn't have learned any of the songs, or even just a part of a chorus, okay? So once you've decided on a song that you'd like to learn, stick to it until you master it. Keep going with that song, keep persisting, and don't give up on it until you've learnt the whole song, okay? You don't have to learn all the solos if you don't want. If there's a really difficult part of the song, that's absolutely fine. But if you set out to learn something, then learn it in full. Because if you keep flitting between lots of different things, then you're never really breaking through that wall into the next level of ability. So you're not going to make lots of great progress as a guitar player. And again, progress is one of the key things that makes guitar fun. So if you want to have fun, then you've got to make progress, and that means you've got to stick to playing one thing until you absolutely master it before you move on to the next. Don't take on too much at once. Take on something small, just like one song, and focus on it until you absolutely master it. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about something a bit different, and this is what tone you should practice with. So we've talked a bit about the different guitar tones that you can get, but we haven't talked about it a lot yet. So if I play like this, that's what's called overdrive, okay? Because the signal is a bit distorted. And now this is distortion. Because it's really distorted, you know, it sounds really rocky and heavy. So that's what you'd use for a song by like a classic heavy metal band, you know, Iron Maiden or someone like that. Now, if I go to my amplifier here, I can click onto the clean channel. So this is what a clean tone sounds like. So you can see the difference there. There are a few different tones. So on your amp, you'll probably have a button that says gain, overdrive, or distortion, or something like that, and that'll put it onto the distortion setting. Or if you have that switch off, then it will be clean like this. Okay, now when we're playing rock music, we want to use distortion and we want to use overdrive because it sounds cool. But when you're practicing, that's not always the best thing because it can hide some of the mistakes you're making. So that means that you won't know if you're really playing the riff right or not. So what I recommend is when you're starting off to play a riff for the first time, use a clean tone and practice the riff. So say if we were taking that riff from earlier, from the last lesson, we could do something like this. Practice with a clean tone for a bit and make sure you can get the riff right, and then you can crank up the distortion and then you can rock out with it. And you can carry on, you can have a load of fun. and then when you've got the distortion, then there are new challenges to approach. But because you've already learned the riff with a clean tone, it shouldn't be too difficult to learn it with a distorted tone either. So it's the best of both worlds. So when you're first starting to learn something, use a clean tone, and then when you're starting to get the hang of it, add in the distortion and make sure you can still play it cleanly, okay? Now, when you're learning something new on guitar, there's a really important principle, and this is you start off slow and then you build up to playing the thing at full speed. So you start off playing really nice and slowly, so slow that it almost doesn't even sound like you're playing a proper song. And then you slowly build up the tempo until you can play it at the full speed, and you can play quite fast, okay? And this is a million times better than trying to play it fast from the get-go. If we take that same riff again, just like that. I see loads of people who first start out playing guitar and they can't really play anything yet, but they say, oh, I want to learn that riff. So let's say they took this riff, you know, nice easy beginner riff. They started to play it and they wanted to play it at full speed straight away, so they go, oh no, I didn't get it right. Okay, try again. Try again. And they completely mess it up and they can't play it cleanly and they're never going to be able to. So what you need to do instead is start off really slowly and go to a tempo where you can play it easily. So start off really nice and slow, just like this. And you play super slow so you can get everything right. And if you can do that, then speeding it up will be a breeze, okay? It's much better when you're starting off to learn something to play it slowly and perfectly than to play it quickly and make a load of mistakes. Because the mistakes aren't going to fix themselves. But if you start off perfect and slow, then the speed will increase by itself. So don't feel bad about playing slowly, because the faster you want to get in the end, the slower you have to start off. Sometimes I'll do guitar practice where I only play one note every couple of seconds because I want to get it absolutely perfect and I want to be able to watch both hands and make sure I'm playing everything right. And that's why I can play lots of songs now that I couldn't before, because I started off slow and easy and I gave my brain time to learn what was new. And then once I did that, then I could speed up the song without difficulty and it became easy to play at full speed. So I hope you've enjoyed this next free lesson on how to practice on rock guitar. All of these principles are applicable to any guitar style, so whether you want to learn jazz or rock like in this course, or blues or country or folk or funk or whatever it is, all of these principles are all applicable because they apply to any guitar style. So even if you want to learn a new style in the future, you can still keep these tips in mind and you'll get really good progress, okay? I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. The next Complete Beginner Rock Guitar Series free lesson should be out tomorrow. If it's not, then tell me off in the comments because it should be. Now, if you've enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to subscribe. The link for that's in the description below. And also check out that 53 free rock guitar songs lesson that's also down there as well. And there's also a link, more links, to the rest of the Beginner Rock Guitar series. So if you're completely new to guitar, check that out and that's just going to continue to grow. And it's all free, you don't have to sign up for anything. This is just my way of showing the guitar community how easy learning guitar can actually be. Okay? Hope you've enjoyed this lesson and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.